why the issue should be very careful on the course that is charting. The purpose of this meeting is to very carefully, using graphical, visual, and oral information, take you through why we think the UC's approach is extremely problematic. So we're going to go through step by step, and we're still going to be done in 30 minutes. So bear with me. I'll go straight to the point. In order for you to put into perspective how expensive Ghana's elections have become, cast your eye to the country that colonized us and is also a democracy, the United Kingdom, and look at how much they spend on elections and compare it to how much we spend on elections. You will quickly discover that we are spending up to 4 times per voter what the UK does. So it costs Ghana 4 times what it costs the UK to enable one citizen to vote. 4 times. This is a far richer country. It's been doing this democracy thing for much longer. Why does it cost Ghana 4 times? You may make the argument that, well, it cost Ghana 4 times because maybe it's Africa, the issues are more complicated. Whatever it is, the purpose must be because we want elections that are free and fair. So the quality of the elections that they are free and they are fair. And maybe this expenditure, this massive amount of money we are spending, is relevant and useful because the quality of the election that we want, we are getting. So they are getting value for money. I'm going to take you through a process of discovery, during which you will come to understand that the money that we are spending is not necessarily because we are getting good quality in return. By the time I'm through, I hope to convince you that a lot of this spending is due to waste. Quick point, because if you even adjust for many of the reasons why the UK is not Ghana, and you compare to other parts of the world, you still find that on average, we are spending between 3 and 4 times what the rest of the world is spending. The question is why? I'll tell you 2 issues. And I'll start with the issue of cost, because that is how I began my presentation. I'll go through the EC's arguments for why it wants to replace the existing technology infrastructure and register with a new one. And then I'll give you our view of that in very graphical terms so you can understand the position that we've been making all along much better than you've ever done. Here is the UC's case. And if you want to describe the cost of technology as far as elections are concerned, you are concerned with 2 main things: the technology that is used to run the elections and the registration process. The EC's case that you've heard all along can be summarized very simply along these lines. They say that the existing biometric infrastructure, and I'll explain what that means. What is the technology that we use to run elections in this country? They say that the existing technology system we have for running elections in this country is so old and so broken down and therefore so useless that if you went to pick it up and threw it out of the window, send it to Collet and just grind it in the landfill and went to buy a completely new one, you will still save money. That is the argument that the EC is making. The EC is also making the argument that the cost of registering everybody, the 17 million people that we suspect are qualified voters, the cost of registering all of them afresh is not that much more, or actually may be less than registering only those who have turned 18 this year or those who have not had the opportunity to register in the past. So when you combine those 2 points, they're trying to say that it makes a lot of sense to move away from the existing system because you actually save money. And they actually put a number to how much you will save. It's about $38 million. So if by changing the system to a new one, brand new, and registering everybody afresh so you can keep away all these ghost names, you can end up spending less and saving $38 million. How can anybody oppose such an idea? You must be extreme nation wreckers to be opposed to the EC. If they had left the situation there, I doubt that any of you will have had any interest whatsoever in what we're going to say. But before I can explain to you why everything that the EC has said in respect of this matter, almost every single thing is a palpable lie, I have to take you through in a very quick way, what we mean when we say technology for running elections in Ghana. The technology for running elections in Ghana is divided roughly into about 7 main parts, and I'll run through them. You will see that this section, where the dot is what normally you hear of as the BVR, the Biometric Voter Registration Kit. To be entirely honest, there's nothing complicated about it. It's a laptop, a printer for printing the ID card, a scanner, and a camera. You add all of it together, you have the BVR. And they pay about $3,500 to $4,000 for this. Think of it carefully. That is the BVR. They put it in a suitcase so you can move it around village to village, town to town, doing registration. That is it. Then you have the second major feature, something that they often call the BVD. That is simply what you use to confirm that the person whose name is in the register and whose fingerprint is in the register is indeed the person standing before you. You do that often twice, during the exhibition of the register and during voting. That really, more or less, are the key components of the technology. Additional components includes the software in which you are storing all the fingerprints and which is doing the comparison to determine if the person that is standing before you is the person who they say they are. Then you've got the VSAT system, because when you go into these villages and you do the registration, you have to send all the data to Accra. So you need some satellites that can send all that data to Accra. More or less, there's also a data center, which is a central computer system in which all of this data is sitting, etc. More or less, that is the technology system which we use to run elections in this country. And the one that they say, I think there are things happening. So, now, the EC's case is that when you take this specific system and you buy a completely new set of laptops, the laptops typically are around 5,500. Now they are thinking of going to 8,500, but it gives you a certain perspective. These laptops with printer, the rest that costs around 3,500 to 4,000. They will buy around 8,000 of them, send them to different registration areas, and people will go there and register. That's more or less what we are talking about here. They are saying that you can take all of these, every single one that they have now, and throw all of them away. Take every single one of these, throw all of them away, wipe away the software, throw away the satellites, buy a completely new system, and if you did that, you will still save this country $38 million. Where did they get this from? They say that they've gone and asked the people that maintain the existing system, and they've told them that if they were to refresh it and refurbish it because it's too old, remember, if they were to refresh it and improve it, it would cost 74 million. But if they buy a new one, it will be 56 million. And I've already explained the point they have made about the registration. So if you add all that together, you save about $38 million. That's what we are going to go into in very clear detail. Because in this country, people have a tendency of putting words in people's mouths. I just wanted you to see the EC's own way of putting the point that I've just made. They've told you that if you buy the BVR and the BVD for the existing one and you try and improve it by refurbishing or whatever, this is what it will cost. If you get a whole new system, this is what it will cost. This is the savings that you will make. So this is the savings you make on technology alone. And they've also made the point that when it comes to registration, the cost in 2012 of doing a new register cost a certain amount. In 2015, just registering those who have now 10 of age cost a certain amount. So when you compare it, registering only those who have 10, 18 and those whose name are not on the register is more expensive. And therefore, doing the whole registration again is cheaper. And when you combine all of that, you save another $20 million. So in total, we're now talking about $38 million. How did they arrive at the conclusion that the existing system is so bad that even attempts to repair it will cost more? They said that because the system has been used since 2011, when we bought them. And since we bought the system in 2011, up to now, we've not changed it. This is the EC's own words. You see, this is a PowerPoint they presented to CSOs. Most of you may have seen this circulated in your media houses. So it's a very simple argument. We bought the thing in 2011. It's almost 10 years now. It's been so old that when you try and repair it, it costs more money. So let's buy a new one. That's really the EC's case. So let's delve into it. And for both the BVR and the BVD, which I have just explained to you, think of them as one is like a mobile phone that can authenticate your hand. The other is like a laptop which you use to register. Think of it roughly like that. Good. What we are saying at the core of our argument is that that is not true. End of story. The argument that the system is so old that if you try and refresh it, it will cost more is not true. In fact, if you try to refresh the existing system, you try and refurbish it, buy a few new ones, and take out only the ones that are truly broken, you will not spend more than $15 million. And if you tried and did a registration of only those who have turned 18, you will not spend more than $20 million. Why? It is very simple. You will register about 2 million new people. If you try and register 70 million voters all over again, you just have to hire more people, you have to buy more material, and it takes longer. So it just costs more. Anybody who will try and convince you that it doesn't cost more doesn't have any regard for the truth. End of story. But we are going to give you more evidence than that, because we've just also put out a number. How are we getting these numbers? There are places in this country where every single dollar, every single CD of public money you spend, records get generated somehow. In all of these debates, I think those of you in the media should have gone for some of this information, because some people were putting another set of numbers, and other people were putting another set of numbers. But in order not to, because I know you are busy, in order to waste more of your time, we've gone and done that for you. We've gone to the Ministry of Finance's records, because don't forget, all the EC's money is the tax. Every time you buy soap, there's some VAT and whatever on it. All that money is what has been aggregated, and some of it is being sent to the EC to run the election. The Ministry of Finance is the one that releases that money through the Accountant General, Controller Accountant General, and the rest. So they have a record of how much money is being spent by the EC. And for the EC to get that money, they must tell them what they are using the money for. In 2016 and 2018, the EC went to the Ministry of Finance and collected money to buy, as you can see here, 500 new BVR, and spent additional money on biometric systems. 2018, they went and bought 2,000 more of these devices. That's 2,500 alone. Now, remember what I said? We started with around 5,500 of these devices. They've added on top of these devices new ones that they've bought, right? How can you, after having done that, then come out and say that the system is so old because the whole system dates from 2011? That argument you must put to the EC. Because either the Ministry of Finance, somebody said, you see, when you look carefully here, you will see that it says that past years, what was spent in 2016 and 2017, and that is where this is lodged. Here it says past years, and it says 2018, this is how much you bought. Either somebody said they've given this money to the EC to buy 2,000 laptops, each accompanied with a printer, a camera, and a scanner, and that somehow that money didn't go to the EC, and somebody kept that millions of dollars at the Ministry of Finance, or the EC is lying. One of them must be lying. Ministry of Finance or the EC. Because if the system entirely dates from 2011, and we have records showing that you are buying more and more of them 2016 and 2018, then somebody is lying to Ghanaians. It's a very simple argument. If you accept the argument you are making that we trust the data from the Ministry of Finance, but they are politicians, right? And sometimes politicians also do funny things. Auditor General. The EC is a public agency. When they say we are independent, it doesn't mean that because they are independent, when they take our money, nobody should go and take a look. That's why they are audited. That is why the EC cannot sack somebody and say because you are independent, we've sacked them without cause. The person can go to court or go to the labor courts or go to the labor commission. So despite their independence, they are subject to all the public sector regulations and constraints that every other agency is subject to. And that is why they are audited. And when they are audited, you can see from 2016 that they are spending a lot of money on this biometric stuff. You see, voter management system upgrade and rollout training. Voter management system is the software that sits in the district office that they use to register people and keep their names and do adjudication, etc., etc. And look how much they are spending: $1.15 million. April 2016. You can see that they did some preparation of BVD and ancillary service. They spent what? $14 million. This is money you are talking about, too. Buying laptops and repairing laptops and things like that. $14 million. This is all 2016. Look at how much they spent on the BVR case that they are saying that are completely obsolete. $2 million. For the same biometric equipment, $10 million. These are all 2016. Releasing $40 million on a system they say is obsolete because in 2011 there has been no investment in it. When the Auditor General's audited account statements say otherwise. We also now have parliamentary, Franklin said that we're going to have new disclosures. We also now have parliamentary oversight documents that show that members of parliament that sits on the oversight committee, it's often called the special budget committee, are aware of these purchases because it's captured in their reports. And we'll share some of that data with you, including the pages where you can capture them and the names of those reports. So not only is the EC complicit in this matter, we are now seeing a situation where members of parliament who know for sure that the EC take this money and buy this equipment, sit in this country, and some of them actually go on radio stations defending the EC. You have to ask yourself why. We call it state capture. So the person or the individual responsible for placing the EC under oversight is on radio stations as a legislator, and his primary job is defending the EC. Makes no sense. Your job as a legislator is to say, well, they came before us and they made these claims. We asked them these questions, they gave us these answers, and that's the information. We also look at how much we often buy this equipment for. And this is not necessarily this administration. This has been going on for years. And it turns out that we are spending too much. And it's not that difficult to think about. You all have laptops. You all have an idea what a laptop costs, what a camera costs, what a scanner costs. And you put it together and add a printer. When somebody tells you that's $3,500 to $4,000, you don't have to be a genius. You don't have to have a PhD. You have to start wondering, are we really getting value for money? $4,000 for some laptop and printer and this thing, there's something in there. And it's not therefore surprising that even countries like Zimbabwe and the like get it far cheaper than we do. We are spending almost 3 times more Zimbabwe what Zimbabwe does. When you add all that up, it comes to this simple conclusion. Since 2011, it's a lie that we've not bought any new equipment and everything dates back to 2011. We spend in old things. So if we have to do anything, we just have to do you need if you want to improve or maintain the current system. End of story. It will cost you far less. If we allow them to continue doing what they are doing, then as I've explained to you, it will mean that this is the amount of losses this country has to rack up. Almost $150 million, because it's not only the new hardware that you are buying, you are also buying new software. Remember, the tender that they just did was only for hardware. They did another tender for software, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. But there's another interesting point. Remember the argument they made? They said if you buy a new system, you spend only about $56 million. And it will cost you $74 million to repair and to maintain. Where did they get that $56 million from? They were doing a tender. That tender, they have seen some numbers already, and it was evident that that was not the number. What it will actually cost them to procure new systems is what was revealed when the tender ended, and that was about $72 million. So there too, they clearly lied to you. It was not $56 million. In fact, either they made that number up, or they threw it in the air deliberately to confuse you and to deceive you. On top of that, we also know they got hospitals on software. And if you add all of that, you add contingency, the unnecessary registration of 17 million people all over again, you are getting to close to $150 million of you and I's money being blown for reasons that nobody can explain in this country. Yes, some of you may be saying, yeah, you're for this IMANI people book long, you're going to want to go and register small to look at all these numbers. Money is not everything. We will grant you that. The world is not all about money. Yeah, that's $100 and something million. If they spent a little bit of it on dialysis machines for Ghana, we'll do much better. If you ask people what is the waiting period for dialysis machines in Ghana, you'll be shocked. The whole country does not have even more than 150 dialysis machines. If you have somebody who has a kidney problem, ask them the waiting period to get dialysis. And when you get that dialysis, how much it costs. This amount of money, the $150 million, can bring Ghana's kidney management program to the WHO's best practice. So think of it, it's not just money. But we'll grant you that money is not everything. And we'll move on and say, is it possible that the actions of the EC can now go beyond losing money and start to affect the quality of our elections? Some of you may say that is more important to me because democracy is expensive, so maybe we should just spend a little bit more and get better quality. And even if there are stealing some money left and right, or they are doing whatever with the money and I don't know for sure, let's just get the election going. Our second point to you is that in addition to cost, there's also risk. And particularly the risk that because of their actions, the elections you are going to have, not even not this year, secondly, the year after, may be far less quality and stable than what you've had before. Why? We'll go through it. Usually, when you want to look at the risk, you want to look at the dimensions, the places through which that risk can come. So if you buy a car and you are drunk, the drunkenness can lead you to get in an accident. It's a risk factor. We are going to focus on only one risk factor because we don't have time. And we will show you why that risk factor is sufficient to explain the problem. It's the risk factor of newness. New things. New things tend to be more problematic. What do I mean by that? The existing system that we've had it for long enough that we've learned to use it very well. If you go and buy a new system and you don't install and implement it properly, you can create more problems. But I'm going to give you evidence for it. Don't just take my word for it. So our argument is that the risk of the new platform, re-registering everybody, is far more than using a system that has delivered so many elections since 2012. And our first piece of evidence, using the observer data reports. Remember, every time we have an election, you have these UU people, we have our own people called Codeo go around and they inspect and they file reports. IMANI has mined each and every one of those reports and studied reports about breakdowns in polling stations. And we find out in 2012, when we first implemented this biometric solution, 33% of polling stations had problems. In fact, if you remember, in 2012, in some situations, it was so bad that we postponed the election for one more day. Remember that time? Yeah. It's the only time it has happened, the only time it has ever happened, because it was a brand new system. In 2016, we had learned to use the system a bit more. It dropped down to 7.5%. In 2019, when we did the district election, the number of polling stations where you had the breakage went down to 5%. That tells you something. It tells you we're getting better at using the system, and therefore we're having fewer and fewer failures. If you implement a whole new system, you may lose that knowledge that has led to a reduction of the failure rate. We also know that the EC said some people, when you put your finger on, even if though it's you, the system says it's not you, and they have to do manual verification. And we have had a number of those episodes. So it means that the machines are getting old, and we have to buy new machines. Let me explain in very quick terms. I'm going to give you a crash course in biometric technology. Last just 2 seconds. Take your finger. There's a fingerprint. Assume that the fingerprint is just 100 points. There's 100 points on your finger. And the system tries to pick up those points to see if it's you or not. And if it's 98, it will allow it. If it's 95, it will allow it. Let's say if it's 92, it says no, it's not you. Think of it that way. What are the conditions under which it may not be 92 or 99? Maybe there's a cut on your finger. Maybe there was some grease. Maybe there was some dust. So every biometric system you have by nature cannot be 100%. Because your finger doesn't stay 100% what it is, right? Now you have to set the system to say, if it's 85, allow it. If it's 70, don't allow it. That brings in an element of discretion. Our argument is that it's over time that we've learned what is the right balance to enable enough people who are truly who they are to qualify and those who are not to reject it. That gives you 2 principles. If you make it too high, if you say if it's not 99 of all the points, reject the person. If somebody has 2 cuts and so 2 points are missing, the system will say no. If you make it too low and it's 70, 2 people can begin to look alike and therefore they can pass through the system. That is what you are generally fighting about. So, simple point. If the EC says that only 0.6% of people could not be verified by the machine, you have to compare it with other systems in the world. And we've done that, and we found out that in India, it can go as high as 5%, in Indonesia, as high as 3%. So our less than 1% is perfect. Because it's a probabilistic system. You can't get 100% ever. The fingerprint will never stay the same throughout a person's life, because even if you put palm oil on it, it can change it a little bit. But it also shows you that you have to set a level which is acceptable. Because if you set it too high, you lose people. Now that setting process, I'm arguing, is happening over a number of years through try and error, because we don't have an explicit policy in Ghana that says this is the threshold. And if you start all over again, you have to relearn all that processes. And we know from other countries that every time you implement a new biometric system, you have problems. In Nigeria, when they implemented their very first one, the system rejected the president of Nigeria. We know that in Kenya, when they tried to implement their very first one, it's so bad that they abandoned it and left the system and just went back to the old system. We know that if you go to a place like Afghanistan, it goes so bad they couldn't see what to do. They have to invite the people that actually made the machines to fly from Germany and come to Afghanistan. It took them 64 days to release results. So new systems generally cause more problems. In the same way with data, registering new people all over again versus using the existing data and clean it up. You cannot tell me that registering people all over again, 17 million people in 36,000 different locations in this country, will be smoother than that. I'm getting towards the end. And this is where a lot of you have been waiting for, because this is where, for most of you, we are. Because they usually say they will go ahead and do it, notwithstanding anything all of us have said. So they've gone ahead and they've done some tenders. But here is where the risk begins. If the tender that they do, because you are buying something new, if you do it shabbily and you do it without care, you can buy something that causes more problems. So we have to look at how the EC is buying the new system as well, even if we don't agree with them. And the way that they are buying the system is through the tender. And we've evaluated the tender carefully and we want to give you a short narration for you to judge for yourself. They published the tender in April 2019. Some people came, some of the best companies in the world, they said, oh, we'll do this for you, we'll do this for you, and we'll charge this amount. They easily looked at all of it and said, for some reason, we don't like what we are seeing, and then they canceled the tender. Then they reissued it again in August. The same set of people came and different vendors came. They said, we'll do this for you, we'll do this for you, and we'll charge this amount. It went on to around December, 4 months of evaluation. Then the committee settled on some people. The EC also started writing to the committee saying, we like these companies. This is a tender. We like these companies. We think these are the companies that should go. Eventually, they managed to get some 4 companies through and then sent it to the Public Procurement Authority. But they had strong-armed the members of the tender committee to the point where the chairman of that committee was not willing to have his name associated with the process. So the EC got angry, set up a whole new committee, started the tender all over again, starting on 10th January 2020. On 13th January, they met to establish their term of reference. On 17th, they invited the companies to come back. On 18th, they held the demonstrations and the technical evaluation. And then on 19th, because they are magical and they are greatest geniuses in the world, they already had the winner. $72 million, carry and go. That's literally what happened. Now they do that, and now they have this winner. We say, okay, we don't like how you did it, but maybe you still got the right person. But what are the people that lost and why did they lose and things like that? So we started reading the document. They said, oh, the companies that lost, there was one that was very good, called Smartmatic. But as for this company, we're going to do some research about them, and they have some reputational issues. One of them was that in Philippines, the president of the Philippines was angry with them and the electoral commission of that country. And the attorney general said he will even do investigations. So when we look at that, we are suspicious of their track record. It didn't sound very sensible, because politicians make accusations about everybody all the time. But well, maybe the others didn't have anything at all, so maybe this little thing is interesting. We said, okay, let's look at the one that actually won. A company called Thales. Now, this company is a French company. So we started digging into this company. We found out that in 2004, 2005, the company was blacklisted by the World Bank globally for corruption. We said, this is serious. I mean, of all the companies, is the one that got blacklisted that you want? We started digging. It's like a pattern. It's an amazing pattern. It's an amazing pattern. And I'll show you a few. This is a company that today, it's under investigation in South Africa for bribing President Jacob Zuma and his people. This is a company that's under active investigation today, has been found guilty after a proper procedural effort in South Africa. This is a company that in Gabon was more or less run out of that country by NGOs because they went to corrupt the electoral process there. This is a company that in Cambodia got itself into trouble again with the World Bank. This is a company that went to Estonia to do ID cards for them. Remember, this company has bought a company called Gemalto. So when I say Thales and Gemalto, I'm talking about the same company. Gemalto was bought by Thales. This is a company that went to Estonia, told them they can do ID cards for them. Did something so bad that the government couldn't use it. And the government is suing them 150 million euros. My argument is not that if you are like this, you shouldn't get a contract in the world. My argument is that you cannot say one company has reputational risk because somebody threatened them in the Philippines, and then you choose a winner which has reputational risk that even Satan will be scared of. It doesn't make sense. That's what I'm saying. I mean, you can go and do business with Thales, a big French company that has billions of dollars, but if the point upon which you are going to disqualify another company's reputational risk, you can't use this. End of story. On top of that, if you compare this Thales and the Smartmatic company that they say have problems, there's no comparison in terms of who has experience when it comes to electoral technology. Smartmatic, almost 21 projects. Thales, almost 7 projects. Half of which I've explained to you, mired in corruption scandals. In fact, in one case in Benin, just next door Benin, the Electoral Commission of Benin, there was an MP who also sits on the Electoral Commission of Benin. This person has a shell company. He has registered a company, but he doesn't actively run it. It was receiving money from Gemalto while Gemalto was still pursuing contracts and already had won contracts in Benin. When it was revealed, he said, oh, he doesn't manage it actively, it's through a trust, so he doesn't see what the problem is. Why are you paying people that sit on electoral commissions in Benin? And my argument is that if you have such a company, and after all of this, like this is secret, you still like them, but you don't like the other company that has more track record because you say somebody threatened them in the Philippines, then you have something shady going on. The biggest issue of all, 18th April 2020. Everybody should go and register. We are saying it here and today that the EC cannot use a new system to conform to that timeline. It's not possible, and we'll explain why. So if the EC goes ahead and does it, then it will not be using the new system properly configured. There must be some shortcuts that they have discovered, which is going to enable them. But if you want to do the proper thing, it's not possible. It's possible that they have some shortcuts. The danger in shortcuts must be obvious to all of you. And that is where we hope you will start asking the questions. What is the shortcut that is going to enable them to get us a new system in April 18, which is less than 6 weeks away? And I'll tell you why that is not possible, if they want to do it properly. If I am a technologist, I build technology. If you want to build a software platform that can manage 25 million voters, that is the spec they have set, because Ghana will increase in population, 25 million voters. There are 36,000 polling stations, 8,000 electoral registration areas. It's a distributed system. Software sitting on devices all over the place, all of them being centralized, etc., etc., etc. If you really want to do such a system, can you use 6 weeks to build such a system? How much does it take to do a project on Excel for your finances? Think of it carefully. You need to do specification. This is the system we want. Look at all the documentation issues. You need to go and have people start to develop. You have to test. You have to do field tests. If there are issues, you need to review. How possible can you do that in 6 weeks? How long have you been working on our e-visa systems at the airport? At the very least 2 years for the current generation. So think about it carefully. If somebody says that up to now, they've not finished with the tender process for the hardware, when it comes to the software, they did the same thing they did with the hardware. They published the tender in October 13th. The result that they got, they didn't like, so they cancelled it. So this becomes a pattern. When they don't like, they cancel. They decided that I think this one should do sole sourcing. Now, nobody knows for a fact where they are in that software tender. Let's say they complete it next week. You now have what? Less than 5 weeks left. How are you going to build a completely new software platform to sit on 8,500 devices test as many of them as possible, go to the field and evaluate them, etc., etc. We say it is not humanly possible. Even building a little website, those of you who have built websites in this audience before, it doesn't take 5 weeks. What does that mean? What that means is this. If the EC does not become transparent and answer some hard questions, how are you going to configure this system and get it ready before April 18th when you've not finished your tender process? When there are accusations that you are sourcing a system after the tender failed to give you the outcome. When there are allegations that the people that did the bidding, that you are now trying to go back to the same tallies and give them the software as well as the hardware, when you yourself have made a policy that you won't want one company to control both the software and the hardware, and when people are suspicious that if you do that, it makes it easy for the system to be manipulated, and therefore there's political concern, if all of these issues are not resolved, how are you in 5 weeks going to implement such a system, run all the tests, and then tell people to walk out there and go and vote? We think they will use a shortcut. We don't know what shortcut it is. But if you are following best practices, if you are being objective and transparent, if you are being thoughtful, careful, diligent, you will not use a shortcut. You will do the proper thing. That means that the software specification will be properly developed and verified and vetted. That means that the vendor that has been selected will meet stakeholders and do demonstrations, etc., etc., etc. You will not do tenders that you cancel when they don't go your way. You will put information out so people are fully aware. Where are we? How are we going to get there? What's the timeline, the roadmap, etc. Because the EC has demonstrated a complete disinterest in doing things properly, we argue that we are likely to use a shortcut, and that shortcut will bring us problems, if not in this election, in subsequent elections. Remember, they said they came to meet a mess. They said the system that they came to meet was so bad that they have to throw it all away and buy a new one. Yet, you have 81 IT professionals who have been sitting there since that thing was procured. Why are you at this stage that you are claiming you want to repair that system, doing things that are even worse than the previous administration? Because at least the previous administration commissioned an audit of the system and were given a path. What independent audits have you commissioned? Why is that the people that you brought on board as consultants to help you navigate the procurement process are actually now been exposed as people with contracts in the EC? You've all heard the issue of Fair Green and their famous CEO, whose company is trying to get business at the EC, but at the same time is advising the EC how to implement the system. Now, when somebody comes to you who has an interest in getting your money and getting a contract, and he tells you your existing system is completely useless, throw it away, how can any objective, sensible person say this is rational? So these are the questions that we believe you must put to the EC. And you must force a national debate, not only because this money should not be thrown away. This is money that can do so much good. We're talking of millions of dollars. Millions of dollars. If you share this money to everybody in Ghana, they'll get $5. That's how crazy the situation is. So it's a significant amount of money. Now, on top of that, there are huge projects we can do in this country. We are waiting for China to bring us money to go and do roads. Right? So, that is the problem. But on top of that, it's also the integrity of our elections and maintaining the free and fair nature of those elections. I think it's beholden on all of us to compel the EC to do the right thing. Thank you very much.